All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to pull back the curtain on some pretty surprising truths. I'm talking about your world, your body, even your own mind. We're about to challenge some of those fundamental facts you've probably taken for granted your entire life. So, let me ask you this. How much of what you believe, what you think is reality, is actually built on a foundation of myths, maybe some misunderstood biology, or, get this, even outright propaganda? Yeah, it's probably way more than you think.
Okay, let's start with something super basic, something we all learn in kindergarten, right? The five senses. Well, guess what? That's a massive oversimplification. I mean, on top of the big five, you've got a sense of balance. You've got the sense of where your body parts are in space without even looking. That's a cool one called proprioception. And then there are specific senses for heat, for pain, and even for internal stuff like hunger.
And here's the kicker. This whole five senses idea, it isn't some modern scientific discovery. Nope. It's an ancient concept that goes all the way back to the philosopher Aristotle. And we've just been, well, repeating it for centuries without ever really stopping to question it. Kind of makes you wonder, right? What other facts are just old stories we all agreed to believe? Okay, let's dig into that a little more. Let's see just how easily these stories can get tangled up in our culture, turning from straight-up fiction into what we all just accept as common knowledge. You know the old saying, eat your carrots, they help you see in the dark? Well, take that one. It wasn't originally a health tip, not at all. It was actually a piece of World War II propaganda. See, the British Royal Air Force had this new secret radar technology to spot enemy planes at night. To keep it a secret, they launched this huge public campaign claiming their pilots had amazing night vision because they ate a ton of carrots. And the lie? It worked so well that we're still telling our kids about it today. Isn't that wild? So, we've looked at myths floating around out there in the world, but now let's turn inward. Let's uncover some of the secret rules that are running the show inside our own bodies. And we'll start with something as simple as sleeping. It turns out even a tiny choice, like which side you sleep on, can have some pretty significant, totally unseen consequences. For instance, if you sleep on your left side, you're actually helping gravity aid your digestion and you can cut down on acid reflux. But flip over to your right side and you can actually make heartburn worse and put extra pressure on your liver and lungs. I mean, who even thinks about this stuff, right? And this is the crucial part. Every single position has a hidden cost, a trade-off. Sleeping on your back? Yeah, it's great for your spine, but it can be terrible for snoring. The fetal position might help with snoring, but if you curl up too tightly, you're literally restricting your breathing. And sleeping on your stomach? Oh man, that's probably the worst of the bunch. It puts a ton of strain on your neck and your lower back. So that position that feels so comfy, it might actually be the real source of that chronic pain you can't figure out. Okay, so we've gone from unconscious choices like our sleep position to the deliberate ones. Let's look at how certain chemicals we all consume actively create a false perception of reality right inside our own brains. All right, let's talk about the most popular drug on the entire planet, caffeine. We all think it gives us energy, right? But that's the big illusion. Caffeine doesn't create a single ounce of new energy. All it does is trick your brain. It blocks the receptors for a chemical called adenosine, which is the thing that tells your brain, hey, you're tired. So it's not like hitting the gas pedal. It's more like putting a blindfold on your exhaustion. And this whole thing creates a vicious cycle. You drink your coffee, the adenosine gets blocked, and boom. You feel alert, you feel focused. But once that caffeine wears off, all the adenosine that's been building up comes rushing back, and you crash. And you usually crash harder than you would have otherwise. It's like taking out a temporary loan of alertness that your body always makes you pay back, usually with some pretty high interest. And this really gets to the heart of it. You know that feeling of needing coffee just to feel normal in the morning? It's not really about the cozy ritual. For a lot of us, that feeling is actually your brain fighting off the first signs of withdrawal. We've just cleverly disguised this chemical dependency as a totally normal, even celebrated part of our culture. And it's not just caffeine, not by a long shot. Alcohol is a depressant. It literally slows your brain down, yet it creates this illusion of confidence and being in control. Nicotine gives you that feeling of calm, but in reality, that calm is just the temporary relief from the anxiety of withdrawal caused by the last cigarette. See the pattern? Each one is selling you an illusion. Okay, now let's pull back the final, and maybe the most complex curtain of all. What happens when it's not a myth and it's not a chemical, but the brain's own wiring that builds a fundamentally different and often hidden reality for someone? Let's take generalized anxiety disorder. This isn't just about being a worrier or stressing too much.
It's a neurological condition where your brain's threat detection system, its internal alarm, is basically malfunctioning. It gets stuck in the on position, flooding your body with stress hormones in response to everyday, totally non-threatening situations. Imagine living in a constant state of emergency when there's no actual emergency. And living inside that reality, it is absolutely exhausting. Your mind is constantly building worst-case scenarios for everything. Your body is always physically tense, which leads to real aches and pains. You feel completely drained from fighting these threats that only exist in your head. And even simple decisions can feel overwhelming. For someone with GAD, the world is perceived as a genuinely more dangerous place than it actually is.
Or think about bipolar disorder, where a person's brain chemistry literally forces them to cycle between two completely opposite realities. In a manic state, they might feel like they have superhuman energy, just buzzing with incredible ideas and confidence. But then that high collapses into a depressive state of complete energy drain, where even getting out of bed feels like an impossible task. This isn't just a mood swing, it's like living in two different worlds and having no control over when you get switched from one to the other.
So, after this whole journey, from cultural myths to the secret mechanics of our own bodies, all the way into the very wiring of our brains, where does that leave us?
Well, the big takeaway is this. Our perception of reality is surprisingly fragile. Whether it's shaped by ancient stories, old military propaganda, the chemicals we put in our bodies, or the unique wiring of our own brains, what we experience as reality is often just one version of the truth. And, being aware of all these hidden layers doesn't make reality scary. I think it makes it absolutely fascinating.
It's an invitation to be more curious, to be more empathetic, and maybe to look a little closer at the things we just take for granted. Which leaves us with one last, empowering question. Now that you know just how easily reality can be skewed, what long-held fact are you going to decide to question next?